Përshëndetje and welcome to Inside Albania with me, Alice Taylor. This week, local and international news has been dominated by the situation in Kosovo, as tensions with neighbouring Serbia have continued to rise, erupting into violence and the trading of threats and barbs by regional politicians. I will be joined by three guests today to discuss the role of the international community in the situation, as well as how citizens on the ground really feel. Decades-long tensions between Serbia and Kosovo came to a head last Friday when Serbs tried to prevent recently elected ethnic Albanian mayors from entering municipal buildings in the country's north. Now, the 1998-1999 Kosovo-Serbia war saw 1 million Albanians displaced, 9,000 killed, and around 20,000 raped by Serb forces. The atrocities continued until a 2-month-long NATO-led bombing campaign led to a fragile peace between the two neighbours. Pristina declared independence from Serbia in 2008, something Belgrade refuses to accept. In late 2022, Serb officials resigned en masse from all Kosovo institutions in protest of Pristina's policies and laws, including one requiring all vehicles to display Kosovo-issued plates, something impacting the 50,000-strong Serb community who continue to use those issued by Serbia. Following the resignations, Pristina called elections in December that were postponed until April. Less than 4% of eligible citizens took part following calls from Belgrade and local Serb political parties to abandon the vote. Serbia and the local Serb community argue the elections were not legitimate, while Pristina states it was the choice of the Serb community not to take part, insisting that mayors have a constitutional mandate to govern and enter municipal buildings. Last Friday, Serbs gathered outside municipal buildings in a bid to prevent mayors from entering office, resulting in clashes with law enforcement. By Monday, the situation had escalated into violence, and at least 30 NATO troops were injured, along with Kosovo law enforcement, protesters, and journalists. The US responded through sanctions, including cancelling Kosovo's participation in the Defender 2023 military exercise and ceasing support for its integration into foreign institutions. Additionally, NATO announced the arrival of 700 additional troops to maintain the peace. The EU and the US have asked Kosovo to withdraw its special police units and mayors from the north and condemn them from using force to enter the municipal buildings. A series of frantic meetings have taken place over the last few days between Kosovar and Serbian leaders, the EU, US, and leaders from France, Germany, and Albania. Yesterday in Moldova, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić and his Kosovar counterpart Vjosa Osmani met briefly, flanked by EU leaders. Late Thursday night, Kosovar Prime Minister Albin Kurti announced new elections would be held in the north, but only if the violence and protests ceased. While the situation seems to be relatively calm for now, the wider geopolitical context has been shaken by vocal support for Serbia from China and Russia, while Kosovo has been condemned and sanctioned by its Western allies. Since the outbreak of war in Ukraine, those in the region have been warning about the influence of Russia and how the Western Balkans could be at risk of destabilization through external influence, and are not surprised by the scenes that have unfolded over the last week. But before I dive into the political, diplomatic, and foreign relation aspect of the situation, I want to take the conversation to a local level. My first guest today is journalist Xhemajl Rexha, who's on the ground in North Kosovo. Good afternoon, Jamal. I've been following you for some time and you've been on the ground in the north reporting in real time via social media. Can you give me an overview of what's unfolded over the last few days?
Everything started basically last Friday when those newly elected mayors in those three municipalities north of Kosovo went to their offices, being escorted by a big number of police. There were some clashes on last Friday, and then the weekend seemed to be quiet. And then on Monday, everyone saw what happened. Basically, when these new mayors took the oath last Thursday in their villages, basically, no one thought that it would come to this. Everyone was thinking that they would be working from their offices. So Monday was frightening, obviously. So much violence in Zvezda, maybe it was unexpected. the amount of the violence we've seen, so many NATO soldiers injured. This was basically the worst of the violence we've seen in years in north of Kosovo, and having NATO soldiers included. So we, I mean, on Monday, like in Zvečan, things were tense since we went there with a group of colleagues from Euronews Albania and Top Channel. Our car was immediately vandalized. Like 3 minutes after we left it, close to the municipal building, and our car plates were taken out. And then we've seen a number of attacks against journalists throughout these days. It was very difficult for everyone to be reporting from the north, and especially if you are ethnic Albanian, and be there and try to kind of get a picture of what's happening. So maybe a political solution is in sight, but this 5 days have been very difficult for everyone.
What's the feeling like among the local Albanian community? How are they reacting?
The Albanian communities in those 3 municipalities, which are further north, are very small. It's like 2-3 villages in each of them. And I visited Lipa. This is the village of the new mayor of Zvečan, in center of everything. And it's like when you drive from Zvečan to Lipa, which is just 2 miles away, you can sense the difference, suddenly after seeing pictures of Putin and others. You're suddenly in a village, in a beautiful village, which has Kosovan and Albanian flags all of a sudden. And I've met the mayor and his people and some local villagers, and everyone seems to be frightened, of what's happening. My sense is that everyone wants this to be over. No one wants to live in a continuous sense of insecurity. So these people were like just getting so many visits, let's say, from foreign media as well. And then we've seen that protest at the bridge in south side of Mitrovica, which was really a TikTok thing, just some high school students which gathered not just from Mitrovica, basically they came from other cities of Kosovo, and police had to stop them not to cross the bridge. But that led to an attack against 2 youths in the north of Mitrovica. There's a CCTV of a very brutal attack. Thankfully, these 2 people are okay, but it just tells you how everything can change in a minute, basically. Attacks can happen imminently. So yeah, over the years, not just now, but over the years, when you talk to Albanians in South Mitrovica and they have their houses in North, it's taken a toll on them. They've been living all this for. Sometimes the quote of them is, "You are independent in Pristina, but we are not yet."
And what about the Serb community? I don't mean protesters, I mean the wider community that lives in the area. What are their feelings on the situation?
It is quite difficult to speak to ethnic Serbs, Alice, even more if you're an ethnic Albanian journalist. Even though I speak Serbian and I reach to them, they immediately know I'm not Serbian, I guess because of my accent. So it's quite difficult, especially in these kind of situations when things are happening, when you have this big presence of NATO and Kosovo police. It is very difficult to speak to, let's say, a common Serb, which is not part of the organizers, because we've seen that those groups have used so much violence. I've witnessed an attack against Kosovo police that we shared at Euronews Albania, like 3 youths masked, and we've seen so many masked people all around, like ready to attack. So it's quite difficult to speak to common Serb, but I'll just bring you a short example. While I was in Zubin Potok, I was like going to drugstores to try and buy new SIM cards, because you have to have a Serbian SIM card there to have network. So I was going in like 1, 2, 3 of them, and I was asking in Serbian if I can get a card, and they were immediately shutting me off, telling me, no, we don't have. My sense was that some of them had, but didn't want to sell to me. And then I go to the 4th shop, and the lady is very nice, and she helps me to buy the new SIM cards and to activate them. And for me, that's the sense of normality, basically, that people just want to go on with their daily lives. But over the years, we've seen that Serbs in those parts are pressured by their political leaders, which are directly linked with Serbia, and kind of have to, no one wants to wake up at 6 in the morning and go and protest at a municipal building. I don't think that no one is willing to do that. No one would be happy to do that, like for a week, wake up at 6 and go just stay over hours and hours there.
Do you think Serbs in the north of Kosovo and other communities within Kosovo have some legitimate concerns and there's a need for better collaboration between these communities?
I do. I absolutely do. And the thing is that they are against this Kosovo Special Unit forces being there, and they've not been there that much. And we have not really seen, let's say, an organized or an orchestrated campaign of, let's say, violence or harassment of this Kosovo police against Kosovo Serbs. So, I mean, if you are the viewpoint from Pristina is that they really don't have reasons why to fear Kosovo police there. And they had their own people, obviously, until they resigned. Kosovo police were the members of that community, people that they believed in them. So it is quite difficult to it at the end of the day, Alice, it's political. These people in the north of Kosovo just still want to believe that they don't want to live in an independent Kosovo. They feel, I mean, you see signs everywhere. When you enter Ljeposavić, it says "Ovo je Serbia," which means this is Serbia. So it goes down to that at the end of the day. These people would do anything to make them feel in practice that they live in Serbia, not Kosovo.
Thank you, Xhemajl, for your time and comments.